Okay, on tonight's podcast, we're trying to try and keep this shorter than my normal podcasts, but we're going to discuss a few things. It's more football talk. We're going to look at the various cup finals that are taking place and playoff finals that are taking place at the moment across Europe. We're going to discuss the World Cup, and we're going to discuss some of the England squad for the World Cup. Right, the cup finals that are taking place. Tranmere obviously won the non-league National League playoff final to get back into the Football League. Obviously, that was some great responses on that video that I did. A lot of people viewed it. People still viewing it. Very popular. Some really good feedback. And I do hope Tranmere do very, very well. It's not going to be plain sailing. They're going to have some hard knocks along the way. They've had some hard knocks in falling out of the Football League. But they're on the right track, and they have a very good fan base, as I found out. They have a very positive fan base, a very big fan base, a much bigger fan base globally than I thought. I'm looking at the data. People who viewed that video, I had viewers all over the world watching that. My thoughts on Tranmere getting promoted. So it's showing that even these smaller regional clubs that don't necessarily get the national press coverage have fans all over the world. And I think the sports media, not just in this country but worldwide, could focus more on some of these minor clubs or smaller clubs in the fact that they're not as high up the footballing league, the professional football pyramid. They can give them a bit more press time because some of these good. It's like Livingston winning the Scottish Premiership playoff to get into the Premiership. They beat Partick 3-1 over 2 legs. Again, very little coverage on the fact that there was a playoff to get into the Premiership or to stay in the Premiership. The Scottish playoff system is a lot different. The winner of the Premier League goes straight. The Championship goes straight up. The loser of the Premier League, the bottom team, goes straight down. The second bottom team plays the second team in a playoff, and the winner of that is the one that ends up staying or getting into the Premiership or getting relegated. Interesting playoff structure. Livingston have got promoted. They're back in the Scottish Premiership after a 12-year absence. Obviously, Livingston have had similar financial problems of a similar nature like Rangers have had, and Dunfermline. Obviously, Greta went bust. Scottish football needs some good news and some positive stories. Steven Gerrard, okay, we're not sure how Steven Gerrard will do at Rangers. It is a risk, but without risk there is no reward, I suppose. He's obviously building that's created more interest in Scottish football. Obviously, Rangers is the best supported club in Scotland. For fans, it's got the most fans worldwide. It's the most successful club in Scottish footballing history, and it's got the most trophies, I think, for any professional club. Livingston getting up is a good news story as well. It's a redemption for them because they've had 12 years of financial problems, drifting around the lower leagues like Rangers did as well, and it's good for Livingston to also be back in the top flight. Their initial spell in the top flight was very successful. They won the Scottish Cup. They got into Europe after one season. They finished third. So it's good to see them back. Obviously, the playoffs are happening also in League 2, League 1 and the Championship. There's some player finals to look forward to, and there have been some crowd problems at all these games as well, which is a problem. There's been a few crowd disturbances, which is worrying considering the World Cup is around the corner, which we'll get to in a minute. Across here into continental Europe, Eintracht Frankfurt won the German Cup final yesterday, 3-1 against Bayern Munich. First trophy for that club in 30 years. That is a good news story for German football. It's showing that German football is starting to become more competitive again. It's been too long overly dominated by Bayern. It's nice to see another German team get their hands on a trophy. It's going to be good to see another German team in Europe next season. That's a new name that hasn't played in Europe for a while. That's good to see. It was the reaction of the Bayern players after the game. Now, traditionally, custom, the losing team forms a guard of honour for the winners and applauds them going up, shakes their hands, and applauds them coming back down, and shows a guard of honour out of respect for the winners. The Bayern players, instead of waiting after they received their losers' medals, they walked straight down the tunnel with the coach. That's down to the coaching staff as well, and did not do the guard of honour, which is the custom. They just walked straight off. That has caused Twitter to explode. People are saying it was classless, it was arrogant, it was disrespectful, and guess what? They're right. And Bayern are now sadly getting that reputation as a classless, disrespectful, arrogant club. Sometimes it's good to show a bit of respect to your opposition in defeat. You can learn more from a defeat than a victory, I say. You can learn far more from a defeat than a victory. You can win badly or lose well. Clearly, because Bayern have been so dominant for so long, they're not used to losing, which is a problem. Because apparently everyone's got to be a winner now in schools. We've gone that soft on our kids that they can't deal with defeat in the last 20 years. The last 20 years, everyone's a winner now. We're all winners. There's no losers at this sporting event. You all get a prize, and it breeds. It causes issues down the line when you actually have to come against a difficult challenge and an obstacle to overcome. And Bayern have lost a final and lost badly. They were outplayed, they were outthought, they were outfought. They lost 3-1. Frankfurt deserved to win. And the reaction of their players after the game was not one of, okay, there's always next year, we're a good side. You're not going to win every game. This is what I keep trying to say to some of these ludicrous fans who've got delusions of grandeur all the time. You're not going to win every game. You're not going to win every trophy all the time. I can actually remember when Barcelona were going through a phase where they weren't doing that well in Europe. I remember when Inter Milan weren't doing well in Italy or Europe. I remember when PSG got relegated out of Liga. I remember Man United used to win every Premier League. They've won half the Premier League titles that have ever been contested. Man United have won half. They haven't won the Premier League in, 7 years? 8 years? They've not won the title. I remember Arsenal's the Invincibles. They're now not winning a lot of games. They've really regressed over the last few years. Great teams will go through patches where they're not so great. This could be the turning of the tide in German football. It's good for German football that Frankfurt have won. It's showing that there is a bit more depth and quality in the Bundesliga than has been evident over recent years. And well played to Frankfurt. They deserve to win some silverware. It's good for the club. It increases the club's profile domestically and abroad. And that's a new name on a trophy. It's always good to get your name on a trophy and go into your trophy cabinet saying, we won this. It doesn't matter if you win it once or 100 or 10 times or 20. It doesn't matter. They can't take your name off that trophy. It's like Atletico beating Marseille. It was a very one-sided Europa League final, but Marseille played a very good final. It was breaking down the midfield, counter-attack them. These are tactics that have served Atletico well for a decade. Simeone is a tactical genius. He may not be the nicest manager in the world, he may be a bit of a firecracker, but he's a tactical genius. His team buys into what his tactics are. They buy into that like more physical game. They're also quite skillful too. This brings me on to the English Cup final and how poor in quality it was. It was really low in quality, really poor quality. Chelsea was set up to counter-attack. That's how they set up. Very Italian style of play. Conte is Italian. He's realised the form going into the final wasn't great. They need to be defensively solid, and they need to use the few fast, quick skill players they've got to stretch the Man United defence, and they did that. The tactics were brilliant. They were tactically better than Man United. When they did get possession, the 40% possession they had, they used it more effectively. And the penalty was down to good play. Quick, incisive passing, one long ball, Hazard gets the ball, Phil Jones gets all in the mess and was lucky to stay on. Penalty very well taken. Defensively, very organised for Chelsea. Very organised. They did not allow the Man United players to get much room in the box. Man United also, when they had the ball, they attacked too slowly. They were too slow in their attack and too much lateral passing across the pitch with no pace on it, no one making the runs, not enough movement. And some of the positioning of the players, really mind-boggling that players have been played out of position. Tactically, it was a muddled thinking. Rashford looked frustrated. Lingard didn't have a great game. Ashley Young likes diving still. Got away with a handball as well. I don't know how. I'm worried about Ashley Young defensively. I'm worried about Phil Jones defensively. Smalling had a good game. Phil Jones didn't yet. Phil Jones is on the plane for the World Cup. I don't understand that selection. But no, it was a very poor quality FA Cup final, one of the worst I've seen in my life. And I've been watching the FA Cup final since 1992. It was probably one of the worst FA Cup finals I've ever seen. Really lacking quality. Chelsea's played a good counter-attack game. And it's very much like Leicester when they won the Premier League. Leicester could win on like 37% possession because they used their possession more effectively, and when they had the ball, they moved it with pace. If you are set up for the counter attack, or you're set up for maybe having a bit less of the ball and giving the opposition, you need to attack with pace. Chelsea, when they did get the ball, looked a little bit more threatening going forward. They deserve to win. Mourinho's comments after the game, disrespectful. Much like Bayern Munich walking off the pitch and not giving the guard of honour, disrespect, arrogance, general, unnecessary, makes him look silly. Conte and Mourinho have had a feud going back to the days in Italy when they were coaching in Italy. It's boiled over several times this season with some, I would think, bringing the game into disrepute. Mourinho is the one who plays these silly mind games that actually undermine his own team. Now we get onto the World Cup. Now we look at England's squad selection. It's the youngest squad we've taken since 1962. But it's the most experienced squad in the terms of games in the Champions League. More of the players have played Champions League games this season and Europa League games than in previous squads by double. So more players are getting European exposure. There's a wider range of clubs being selected. Even on the standby list, there's Burnley and Bournemouth players. Leicester players have been selected. Everton players have been selected. Stoke players have been selected. So players from less fashionable clubs that are outside the big six are getting selected for both the standby and the full squad. Standby list and the full squad. Which is a good sign. It's now showing we are starting to develop that depth we've been lacking for the last 10, 15, 20 years. It's also telling that there's slightly more young English players playing in the Premier League and Championship in the first teams. At the lowest point, I think it was at 32% average on a weekend. It's now creeping up to the low 40s. So there's been a slow rise in the number of young English players playing in the Premier League and Welsh players because of Cardiff and Swansea, Newport and Wrexham playing in the English league structure. So there is a slow trend upwards for more English or British players playing in the Premier League and the Championship. That's a positive sign. But the squad is very young. It's very inexperienced at international level. So we have to bear that into account. But here's the thing, we're not expecting this squad to win the World Cup. I think we need to set realistic goals for this World Cup and try and exceed them. So we have to win a knockout game. That's a must. And we need to go as far as we possibly can. And avoid a penalty shootout if possible. Or actually win a penalty shootout. We do need to try and get to the knockout stages, and we need to win a knockout game for this group of players and future groups of players to develop, because we haven't got to a knockout or won a knockout game since 2006 at a tournament. We keep falling short in the knockout games. We keep not progressing. If anything, we've regressed. We have regressed. The Euros are a smaller tournament for the amount of teams. So there's one less round. You take the second round out. We're not progressing past that first knockout stage. That's where Southgate needs to get this team. If we can get to the quarterfinals, semi-finals, that is an improvement. If we can win games and win well, that's an improvement. If we can shore up that defence and close out games, that's an improvement. We need to seriously improve the performances. And when we are ahead in a game, 1 or 2-1 or 1-0 or in a close game, know how to shut a game down. We need to do that better, because game management's a problem as well. Leadership's an issue. Who's going to be captain? Looking like Henderson. And how does he work with the forward players? Vardy's the oldest player, I think, in the squad. The squad is really young and really inexperienced at international level. But the Champions League and Europa League experience that some of these players have had, and they've now started to get more and more game time for their clubs, is a good start. It needs to be carried on, not just for this World Cup, but for in the Euros 2 years' time, and then the next World Cup, the next Euros, and we need to keep giving these young players more game time. But the World Cup itself, when I watched the Confederations Cup last year, the stadiums did look very, very good. All the stadiums are ready for the tournament, which normally isn't the case. Normally there's still work going on the eve of the tournament. Whatever you might think of Russia getting the World Cup, the organisers have got the stadiums ready and the press areas ready well before time. The Confederations Cup last year went rather well. It didn't have too many problems. It went far better than Brazil's Confederations Cup and World Cup. It was far better organised. The stadiums were ready. The facilities were there. The facilities that were still being built were well ahead of schedule, and they are completed. So that's a positive. I think the team that wins is the team that can deal with the travel distance and the weather conditions, because it's going to get very, very hot in a Russian summer. It gets very warm, a lot of thunderstorms, high temperatures, humidity. Whoever can deal with that the best wins. It may not come down to the most skillful team winning, it's the team that can deal with the conditions and the travel the best. And that, I think, will be the team that wins. So it may not be a favourite that wins this tournament. It may be an outsider. We may have a Greece type winner, when Greece won 2004 in the Euros. We may have a winner like that, where an underdog wins the tournament. That may happen because of the distances to travel, the conditions, the energy sapping conditions, and we shall see. That's my view on that. And before I go, there's been a lot of managerial turnaround. We've seen a lot of managers lose their jobs. Managers could lose their jobs. There's rumours of manager changes. This happens as soon as every summer. This is a revolving door of managerial turnaround, and it's always a clash between attractive football and winning football. It's all well and good playing really good quality, attractive, attacking football, but if you can't defend and you can't win, you got to go for defence first, long ball necessarily, or solid mentality. And a lot of fans do confuse the two. You need to have a mash of good attack, a good defence, a good solid all-round performance. And we've seen it with Everton and West Ham. They sack the manager because they want to play attractive football. Doesn't work. They get a manager who's a bit more defensively minded. It works. The fans aren't happy. They're baying for blood for the manager that was playing attacking football, which they demanded. So he does that. It doesn't work because, for whatever reason. They hire a guy who's a bit more defensively minded, strength from the back, good work ethic, but not much expansive manager. They win games, but the fans aren't happy. I don't know how anyone could be a football manager. You can't win. And everyone's singing Guardiola's praises, but Man City do have a lot of problems. Defensively, they're not solid at all, and they don't have that defensively minded or defensive midfielder role that can break up the play to allow the creative players even more space. If they had that Makelele type player, they would be unbeatable. If they had that John Terry's type defender and that Makelele, I'm going for when Chelsea were good. I'm taking two Chelsea legends here. If they had those two type players, they are unbeatable. They don't. Hence why Liverpool, Wigan, Wolves, Man United managed to unlock the defence and unlock them. It's because on their day, those teams realised here's where the weakness is. We'll attack that weakness and exploit it, and they did very effectively. The managerial turnaround like Sam Allardyce, David Moyes, Carvajal, Lambert, that is a lot of managers going in a 24-hour period. And then you've got Conte. Is he on the way out, even though he's just won a trophy? But it's Chelsea, and they have a habit of sacking managers when they win, let alone when they lose. So there's an issue there. Darren Moore getting given the West Brom job. That's a sign in the right direction for two reasons. One, he had a very good run as interim manager. And two, he's a man of colour, and that's what football needs, is more men and women from minority groups getting managerial roles based on merit, but also because it helps increase participation in the game and encourages more people various diverse backgrounds to get involved. Anyway, I'm going to leave the podcast there. Thank you very much for watching. Been great talking to you guys. I know we've only covered the one sport tonight. There are other sports going on that I could have talked about. They probably deserve their own podcast. But it's been a pleasure discussing these things from my point of view on them. Albeit covering each point briefly. But it's always a pleasure doing these videos for you guys, and the feedback I get is for the most part good. You're not going to please everyone, and I've had some right morons the last 2-3 days, and some make giggle with how hypocritical and flawed their arguments are when they actually contradict themselves. It's hilarious. It makes me laugh. You got to love a troll who contradicts themselves whilst trying to give you the abuse, but they contradict themselves. It's really, really funny. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Place your comments below. And I'll have some more videos for you tomorrow after work. So I'll see you tomorrow evening. So thank you very much for watching. I'll see you soon.